I wasn't good at it. It wasn't what I wanted to be doing. And I paid money to other people coaching you on how to get better at cold calls. And it was just I don't want to get good at it. Yeah. I don't want to be the kind of person that's good at this.
Welcome to the Referrals Podcast, the show designed to help everyone from the solopreneur to the Fortune 500 company win the referral game. And now, here is your host, Michael J. Maher.
Welcome, everybody, to another amazing episode of Referrals Podcast. Have I ever let you down with the amazing adjective, with that adjective of amazing? We're always amazing. It's always amazing. And I will tell you, like last time, you're like, I don't know, is episode 298 going to be amazing? And then at the end, you're like, OMG, that was amazing. And guess what? I appreciate that. Today, I know as well is going to be amazing. And, you know, as we put together our podcast guest, one of the questions that my podcast team asked me is, who is most interesting to you, Michael? And isn't that a great question for them to ask? Because if they're interesting to me, I'm going to be a better host. I'm going to be more curious. I'm going to ask better questions. I'm going to dig deep. And you'll notice we don't do a lot of book promotion. We don't do a lot of speaker trainer interviews. We don't try to go through the circuit of all the quote unquote famous people, right? Here's the thing that I love. What interests me the most are these people that many of you have never heard of, and yet they're successful on the ground floor because they're implementers. What do I want from you listening to the Referrals Podcast? Do I want you to be entertained a little bit? Yeah. Do I want you to be educated a little bit? Heck yeah. Do I want you to become more charitable and generous? Heck yeah. But what I really want is behavior change. I want you to implement. And who do we have on podcast? On Referrals Podcast, it's implementers. How do you get on? You could be on. You could be a guest of Referrals Podcast, a top 100 podcast in the United States in the marketing category. You could be on it. How do you get on? By implementing. By doing, making it happen. And the truth is, you know what to do. And I love implementers, and that leads me to today. Now, speaking of implementers, if you like what you hear, do us a favor, and honestly do yourself a favor, and review us. Give us a review. 5-star would be terrific. If it's less than 5-star, let me know why it's less than 5-star, and we'll talk about it. I'll make it a better show. Somehow, some way, if I can. But we have a 5-star iTunes review from Lindsay Rue. Lindsay Rue. How can you not read a review from Lindsay Rue? Cuckoo, kachoo. All right. She said, this podcast is an absolute gem for entrepreneurs who rely on referrals to grow their businesses. The episodes are filled with practical tips, strategic guidance, and inspiring guests. Michael has given me so many nuggets that I've already implemented, including a great one from Event Mastery. I highly recommended this podcast and highly recommend this podcast to anyone in the referral-based business world. It is a game changer. Lindsay Rue, thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. Shout out to you for your kind words. We do appreciate it. I do read those to the entire team, so we all hear them. And, next is... So one of the things that we need to make sure we're implementing is a strategy for energy. I truly believe that time is not the most precious asset. I believe that energy is our most precious asset. We all have 24 hours, so how can that be the most precious asset for everybody when we all have the same amount? Everybody in the world has 24 hours a day. So what's the difference between the super producers, the successful, they have more energy. And what do they do with the energy? What is energy? Energy is the power to do work, the ability to do work. So now, work can be work on what you love. It doesn't have to be work is awful, but it's an energy is the power to do work, the ability to do work. I'm so excited. I can't even tell you I am launching Energy Mastery Class next month. EnergyMasteryClass.com. Check it out. It is 3 years of work where I have narrowed it down to a very simple to remember acronym. And literally the study of energy around spaces and people and things we do, the whole 9 yards. We are going to help you figure out how you can get more energy and how you can be more productive and have fun doing it. And so that's EnergyMasteryClass.com. Starting on August 8th, go to EnergyMasteryClass.com. Speaking of energy, I'm so energized by this guy. You're going to love his story. I love his story. And our guest today is Lanier Ward. He was a former youth pastor and worship leader who just a few years ago decided to make the colossal jump into real estate. After being licensed to sell in Georgia in 2021, Lanier's life took a transformative turn in 2023 when he stumbled, can't wait to hear that part, upon 7L. Since then, he has wholeheartedly embraced this new calling by jumping right into coaching with Angela Gribbins. He has now recognized the incredible opportunity to combine his deep faith with his new passion for the world of real estate. Join us as we delve into Lanier's remarkable story on how he merged his passions and uncover the valuable insights he has to offer on this edition of Referrals Podcast. Without further ado, let's welcome to the podcast, Lanier Ward. Welcome, buddy.
Oh, Michael, thanks so much for having me. If you're looking for not famous guests that no one's heard of, I am your guy.
Well, you're about to become famous. And I will tell you that you're famous in the Gen circles already. And that's what I love about Gen is they really appreciate doers. They really appreciate implementers. And you can go from a stranger like you were in February to being highly referred in our community by showing up for classes, getting coached, showing up for coaching, and you know what, and doing the work. And you definitely earned every bit of it. And that's what I love about this show is we get a chance to take the spotlight and shine it on you where it's supposed to be and get the opportunity to hear stories. It's real people, right? Real stories, real referrals. And you know, there's so many podcasts out there that aren't real. They're all made up. They're all for show. They're staged, right? And it's like, anyway, I love that you're here. So, all right. So we have similar backgrounds. I was a teacher, and I was trying to sell math to high schoolers. And if you can do that, you can sell anything. But it was an intrinsic motivation type of deal, right? And then I found real estate, and I found out, well, not only is there a lot of intrinsic motivation, we can help people, but I found that there was a lot of extrinsic reward too, that you know what, it was going to fill the coffers so that I could help others. And so tell us about your background with being, a youth pastor. Amazing.
I spent about 13 years at a church outside Raleigh, North Carolina. I started interning there in college, and by the time I graduated, I didn't want to do anything else. I loved the church. I loved working with students. And so what kind of started as a twice a week hobby turned into my full-time job for a long time there, and still loved the church. We're still very involved in our church here. There was no messy breakup with the world of church. It was just time to do something different. My wife and I are both from Georgia. My wife grew up here. Her whole family's still here. And so we knew that as our kids got a little older, we wanted kids to grow up around grandparents. That was really important to us.
Very important. Yeah.
And so as we started to kind of chart out what it would look like to make the move, I was done with ministry. I was ready to find something else. And it was like, okay, what job can I kind of walk into without having to go, back to school for something else? Because as it turns out, ministry degrees don't lead to a whole lot of other places. And I found real estate, and I really kind of found it in the worst way possible, I think, which was we'd done well on buying and selling a couple houses because we'd bought and sold at really good times, unbeknownst to us.
Okay.
And in my head, that meant, I'll be good at this. Mm-hmm. And about a week in, I realized, well, that couldn't have less to do with the job of being a real estate agent.
Yeah. Well, so you got licensed in 21. That's right after COVID. So, it had to be a little bit interesting jumping into the world at that time. Were you doing live showings in 2021 and able to drive around and kind of meet with people in a protected sense?
It was kind of the weirdest time to start, I think, because things were starting to lift. And so every interaction with a seller was different. Do you want me to wear a mask in the house? Do you even want me to come in the house? Do you want to show me a Zoom tour of your house?
There you go.
The rules weren't quite as tight as they were in 20. And so it was really kind of a case by case, like, hey, do you want me to stay 6 feet away from you? How are we doing this here? And so every interaction was kind of like, we got to figure out the rules of how we're going to interact with each other here.
Well, which honestly is kind of a great conversation anyway, isn't it? How do you want to do this? And ask them kind of how and a lot of times they're going to say, well, how do you normally do this? And then you just take control of the process. And I'm a big believer in the mantra that, we handle the process, they handle the decisions. We control the process, they control the decision. So if it comes to decision making, they're going to do it, like pricing or which home they want or whatever it may be, or inspection, repairs. And then on our end, we're going to handle the process, right? We're going to figure out which homes to see, when to go, how many to see, and we'll handle that to make the experience as positive as we can for them. So how did you stumble? In your intro, it literally says the word stumbled. So how did you stumble upon 7L? I'm curious about that. How did you find out about it?
So my previous brokerage actually just had it kind of on the shelf in our little library that was free for agents to take. And so I grabbed it and I kind of offhand asked my broker about it. And he said, yeah, you should really read that. That may be a good fit for you. We had done a Ninja installation a few months before, and I really liked it. I thought it was great, but I wasn't really sure what to do. I wasn't really sure how to build a business out of it.
Or how to get into flow, right? In Ninja, they talk a lot about getting into flow, and I think we've captured that. I think we have the answer to that in a lot of ways. And it's like, so did you read 7L that weekend, or you just kind of borrow the book and then let it set for a while, or
not even a weekend? Read it that night. He mentioned, hey,
you seem to be
reading.
That guy. I'm just telling you, like, that's a lesson for everybody here. It really is. Just like, hey, I think I'll read this, and then read it. Instead of like, hey, I think I'll read this, you set it down, and then it just gathers dust. So I love
compliments to you on that, because the kind of narrative format of it really lends itself to make it a digestible. I can sit down and read this thing. I'm not necessarily having to stop every 5 minutes to say, okay, my brain needs something else.
Yeah, it's definitely low brain activity. I appreciate you bringing that up for everybody. People are consistently underwhelmed with my intelligence. So I like that part of the book. I will tell you, what's funny is you go to school, I have an MBA, right? And you go to school to like learn how to say certain words and how to speak a certain way. And then you have to realize in the world, you got to throw that all away, because nobody will actually understand what you're saying, and it doesn't do anybody any good. So it's like, I took out the word like hors d'oeuvres, in the book, because you'd see it in writing and you're like, that cannot be spelled right. You're actually like, is that really hors d'oeuvres? I mean, is that, and then you want to go look it up, and it's a huge distraction. So it's like small snacks, it's just like, we're going to take any interruptive word and we're going to make it like super easy. I used to have, he walked in and the color of the pillar of the person coming in, like the credenza that the hostess works from, was like a blonde mahogany. Well, I had blonde mahogany in the beginning because like that was the color, but people were like, well, they thought the hostess was blonde because of the word blonde, and they've done, and so I just like the hostess stand, just took every color out of it, took every interruptive, and which is so different than how we're supposed to write. We're supposed to write very vivid, very like explain every detail. And it's just like, I took all that out and I just left the strategies and the story, So it's interesting. I appreciate you saying that. So what were the 1, 2, or 3 things that jumped out from reading 7L that that you felt really aligned with how you wanted to do business?
Yeah, I think the biggest part was just focusing on people that you already know and people that you already like.
Yeah.
Not worrying so much about spending your time meeting everybody out there, because that's never going to happen. Obviously, I want to be meeting more people, but the idea that every person with a for sale by owner in a 75-mile radius is going to like me, I found out the hard way, is not going to happen.
Yeah, or none will like you. I mean, that's honest to. I mean, why are they for sale by owner? They typically had a bad realtor experience, and unfortunately, or
just general, distrust of the industry, even if they haven't had a bad experience. And so I was spending hours a day making cold calls. I was spending so much time doing it and really not closing anything from it. One every often enough that I thought, well, I can't quit on it, but only that often. And I was miserable doing it. I wasn't enjoying any of it. And it was getting to the point of, am I really going to stick this out? Is this the job for me? This isn't what I thought it would be. And so when I read the book and saw, okay, here's a way to do business that's not at all that I don't have to lay down at night and wonder if I was grimy from what I'd been doing all day. I really appreciated that. I really appreciated just a business based on relationships, because coming from my previous career, I mean, ministry is all about relationships. It's all about building trust with people. It's all about going deep with people. And so being able to take a skill set that I already feel like I had and use that for real estate, rather than really just kind of banging into the square peg over and over and over again, knowing it wasn't a fit, but not knowing what else to do, just a much better way to build a business.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that you found it, because too many people get out of this industry because they're told and they think that the only way to make it in this business is to pound the phones and call strangers, which is so against our ingrained human nature, and honestly what you learned as a youth pastor, that I think it's the process that needs to be killed, not the people. I don't think people need to commit professional suicide every year thinking that they have to do it this way. I believe that they should be open to the fact that there is another way, right? Generosity leads to reciprocity. Reciprocity leads to referrals. Referrals lead to profit and a profitable business. And profit is just money for your business. But what's more important than money for your business is freedom and choice and health and your family doing what. It's a word called prosperity, right? And it's like generosity leads to reciprocity, leads to referrals, leads to profit, leads to prosperity. Well, what's prosperity lead to? More generosity. But what comes first? It's generosity, which, to go back to the youth pastor days, that's Proverbs 11:25. A generous one shall be a prosperous one. And I have to tell you, growing up poor, that Proverbs 11:25 was a punch to the face, because I wasn't very generous at that time, because I thought generosity was for rich people. I thought, yeah, the Rockefellers should be generous because they're wealth. But no, it's the order that it was presented that smacked me in the face. Is a generous one shall be a prosperous one. He who refreshes others shall himself be refreshed. Both of those mean I got to go first. And then I had to get creative on what generosity meant for a poor person, And guess what? There are ways to be phenomenally generous without it including money or treasure. And it just, you found a trigger in my world for like what 7L is all about and what Gen's all about. It's us going first, right, with generosity. Were there strategies that you implemented or that kind of hit home for you from 7L? What was the first strategy you implemented from 7L?
I got straight into event planning. I got straight into getting ready for an event. It just kind of coincided that just a couple weeks after I started coaching, there was an event mastery session starting up. And so youth pastoring is a lot of event planning. I mean, it's a lot of making sure the pizza's delivered on time and making sure everyone's accounted for. And thankfully, planning events for adults that want to be there is a lot easier than planning it for teenagers whose parents made them come.
True.
So that made it a lot easier, but immediately jumped into event mastery, and I'd been kicking around the idea of doing an office warming party because I want to say it was the week after my first session with my coach, Angela, I went through a brokerage change that wasn't really planned. It was kind of all of a sudden, and was kind of looking for an event to kick that off. And I thought, well, I've moved from, and you'll know this because you're Atlanta. I'd been in Roswell for my office, but I live way over in Gwinnett County. So it's about a 45-minute to an hour drive on a good Atlanta day, which we don't have many of.
Yeah, heading the wrong way both ways. So
fighting traffic both ways. And so I thought, well, all my people, my tribe is all in Gwinnett County. I'm moving my location back to Gwinnett County. What if my first party isn't a housewarming party, but an office warming party?
Love it.
And I just get all my people together because thankfully my brokerage has a really great space. It's fun to show off. And so I invited 50 of my closest friends and family and past clients to show up, and they did. We had just about everybody from the invite list showed up. We had just an incredible fun night, and it really kind of cemented. I told Angela at our next session, I was like, I just kind of stood back and was like, I don't think I should be able to have this as this shouldn't be able to be a job. This is fun. This is good.
Yeah. Funprospecting.com. Yeah. That's a big joke in Gen because I literally got funprospecting.com last year, and right before RMS. And I was just doing some stuff, but nobody had ever thought, I mean, how many domains have been reserved? And by the way, his domain is lanierward.com. It's the greatest. He has his own name. I just love that. Not all of us were lucky enough to get our name, though I do have michaeljmayer.com. I don't have michaelmayer.com or mayer.com. But I think the big thing is that it was so funny that funprospecting.com was actually available, and funleadgeneration.com was available. And it just like nobody had ever thought that prospecting or lead generation could be fun before I got those domains last year. It was just like that was so funny at RMS because everybody kept bringing it up. But you're right. It's you're looking around and you're like, I made this happen. This is a lot of fun, and oh my gosh. So what were the results business wise from kind of that and your first month or so in coaching?
Yeah, so we're halfway through the year. I've already had my best year in number of transactions. The pipeline is really full for the rest of the year. I think my number will at least double. So things have been progressing very well, and it's almost all referral based. It's all just based on I'm getting deeper with people. I'm doing a lot more follow up with people. They don't know it's follow up, but I do. And I'm just staying sticky. And it's been really fun to get to develop relationships as my job. My job is to get deep with people, to get sticky with people, to have one-on-ones with people. And almost inevitably, more and more now, we used to do a funny little test. You could call somebody, you can call a for sale by owner, 5 minutes later, call them back, and they wouldn't remember your name. Right. They had no idea who you were.
Right.
And they ran that as a test almost of, hey, that's why you shouldn't have any fear on the phones, because they don't care about you at all. And the fun part of it now is like, well, no, now I'm dealing with my neighbors. I'm dealing with people in my BNI group that I really like and trust. They do know who I am. I can call them back 5 minutes later and they're happy to hear from me. Yeah,
think about that, right? That's a mic drop moment right there. I mean, that's the difference, right? Why are we calling people that are going to not like us, or we got to convert them, when we've got all these people we don't have to convert? We can literally have great conversations. The other part of that too is, thank God you caught us early. We caught you early, I guess, because you didn't ask all these people for referrals, right? So you didn't go through what we call the NFL, which is no friends left league, right? And we've had people that have come to us and they're like, I don't know if I can ever resurrect these relationships with our database, because I was told to call every month and ask for business, and I've done it and nobody will answer the phone anymore. And it's like, all right, we've got some repair work to happen here. Luckily, you did not have to go through the repair work, right? So I think that's what else results-wise business for your business did you get in maybe the last 3 or 4 months?
So there's been a steady stream of referrals coming. So I enjoyed that first event so much that so that was April of this year. May, I had my first housewarming party for a client that closed. Nice. And received a referral from her. In June, what was the June event? Oh, I had a grand opening for a chiropractor in my BNI group. She came to my office party and was like, "Oh my gosh, this is so cool. I would love to do one of these one day." And I said, "Great, pick the date and let's do it." And we got it on the books. I brought a lot of the same vendors back. We had a great grand opening for her. She was just blown away. Have received a couple of referrals through that as well as just a champion for me. I mean, she thinks I walk on water at this point, and all I did was say, "Hey, we can throw the same party I did. Let's do it for you."
Right, and you had the system for it. Right, you had the checklist. You had just done it. You had just, and I will tell you. I mean, shout out to Scott Edwards. He's a lender in California, who has done this. What you're talking about is all right. So throwing events for ourselves is important. It's a key ingredient to this. But partnering with others to hold events that benefit the both of you or 7 of you is the next step. That you have the system for it. You have the knowledge. So why not? Well, the why of it is so huge because you're now not just tapping into your sphere now, you're tapping into their sphere, and you're doing it in the funnest way possible. So I think it's just that's part. I love that you did that so quickly, and I love that you had that idea and just ran with it. That's awesome. And
it was amazing.
By the way, yeah, go ahead.
Excuse me. It was amazing at her party. I wasn't even having to introduce myself to people. It was just, "Oh, you're Lanier. You're her realtor friend. You put this all together." And it was like, I mean, I couldn't, there's no dollar value on that.
You had to be super humble. And that's what I love about this, right? Is that it forces humility on us. And you know, that was very good for me when I was younger. Trust me on that. And it just like, oh, you know, not really, you know, she should deserve a lot of that credit too. She did a lot of the work, you know, and it just, you know, when you're looking for the brags, you know, a lot of times they have to come from you. So it doesn't work. Right. And when people hear you brag about yourself, it degrades everything. Right. Versus you're getting compliments that maybe you deserve. Right. But you're like, holy cow. Right. That I appreciate that. But man, I don't get all the credit. That's an attraction in itself, is that, you know, I'm going to be humble through this. And oh, you know what? We all did it. We have partners to make this happen. So love that as well. By the way, you kept saying the word sticky. Have you read Sticky Church?
Yeah, that was a big one for us at our church back in the day.
So you're probably seeing, I mean, we're all, Sticky Church is what Gen is. I mean, it really is. All right. We have what are our classes? Our classes are small groups. They're small group classes. So, and they happen to be around a specific interest, you know? And so when people are doing these different groups, and then we have the big congregation group, then it becomes stickier. People become more entwined, and you know, it's a small group strategy implemented within a big group. And I love that you kept referencing that. That's good stuff.
It's good crossover, and we'll have to figure out if you want to go by pastor or reverend or bishop or whatever it is. We'll get your title in there.
Yeah, I think Dad is a solid title. I don't want you to call me Dad, but I barely can get my teenager to call me Dad at this point. Yeah, let's not go with what my teenager might want to call me. Yeah, no, not qualified in any of those areas, though I would say informally and through study that I probably should go back and look at what qualifying would look like. But that's a story for another day. All right. So share what everything did for you mentally, right? How did you feel about implementing quickly? Did you have any doubt or hesitation? And like, what did getting results so quickly do for you?
Mentally, it was massive for me. Again, I was at the point that it was, if this is what a real estate career has to be, I don't think I want to do this anymore. I'll go find something else, because making cold calls for hours a day, again, internally knowing I wasn't good at it. It wasn't what I wanted to be doing. And I paid money to other people coaching you on how to get better at cold calls. And it was just I don't want to get good at it.
Yeah.
I don't want to be the kind of person that's good at this. And so there was a lot of internal conflict for the first, let's call it 18 months in real estate. It was a lot of, I feel like when I clock in, I'm a person I don't want to be. And how do I reconcile that with still being dad and husband and all those things? And so the first shift was just a lot of peace is the word I'd use. Just a lot of peace that, okay, now I don't have to try and be something I'm not to have a successful career. I don't have to put on my kind of grimy real estate agent hat to go to work. I can just be
salesperson hat, right?
Yeah, I can just be me, and that's good enough. Mm-hmm. And so that was the big one. I'd say as far as doubts and hesitations early, there really weren't any for the main reason that I think if I'd credit myself with anything, it's knowing what I don't know, which is a lot. And specifically when it comes to building a real estate career, I don't know. I've never done it before. I've never been a top agent before. Right. You have, my coach Angela has. And so if I want to kind of put the rudder on the ship towards a successful real estate career, I'm smart enough to get out of my own way and say, I don't know the steps to building that, but Michael clearly does. Angela clearly does. So why spend any time fighting them, fighting my ego, saying, well, I don't know if this is really best. Why not just sit back and say, if they say this is what's best, let's go for it.
Yeah. Being super coachable. It reminds me of in football, I coach quarterbacks and I coach offense. And, over the years, I've had some coaches where they have a quarterback coach or they've had 5 quarterback coaches. And, unfortunately, a couple of those quarterback coaches have told them stuff that probably they shouldn't have. Well, so they got a little bit of a distrust for that. And so they implement about half of what I teach them. Right. And they get better, but they could have gotten so much better. And then this year, I have a kid who's never played quarterback before. He's already bitter. He's already better than the kid I had a few years ago. Why? He does exactly what I say. He trusts me implicitly. I'm the only voice in his head. And he doesn't have his dad out there. He doesn't have, he doesn't have these other coaches talking to him. He literally just does. And you know what? He's efficient. He's smooth. He's brilliant. He's having far more success than the others had from the beginning because he's coachable. And I think being coachable and being humble enough to be coachable is a difference maker in today's world. And I love what you said about being me and just you can be me and you have peace. One of the best peace of minds is where you're going to get your next piece of business. And you have peace of mind about where you're going to get your next piece of business. It's going to be a referral from some of the 50 or the 150 that you have known and met over the last 4 or 5 months, And that actually kind of leads me to a question is tell me a little bit about your daily and weekly schedule. That's one of the things that people a lot of times when they come to the podcast that, we don't get a chance to dive and delve into much, but I think here it's going to really help us, get a feel for what does that schedule look like if we're building a referral-based business?
Yeah, I came from, again, the ministry background where I was honestly incredibly undisciplined. I didn't have much of a schedule. Church was on Tuesday nights for us was youth group. Sunday mornings was church. And it was really just as long as everything gets done before Tuesday night, before Sunday morning, great. Everything's perfect.
Right.
I learned
a lot of those things got done Sunday morning and Tuesday night. Right.
That's as long as it was done before 8:59 Sunday morning was the real deadline. So 8:58 looked pretty frantic a lot of days. I learned quickly that being self-employed, that wasn't going to work anymore. And so I've become very, very scheduled. I'm up at 5 every day through the week because I've got young kids. And so if I want to get a workout in, the only time it's going to happen is while they're sleeping. So I'm up at 5. I do a class at 6 at the gym. And then right now, the thing that follows that is Summerfest Challenge every morning. I've got that blocked out for an hour, which includes the video, the challenge. Now it's including a power note every morning, all that good stuff. And I actually do that from the gym. My wife works at the gym that I attend. And so that's actually become a decent referral base. It's a lot of people that we've gotten pretty deep with, a lot of people we know well. And so setting that up as the morning office has been great because it's a lot of people I'm rubbing elbows with.
All right. I have to, before we even get into past the 7 a.m., 8 a.m. hour, I just have to say something about the gym. Here's the other thing. The next time someone goes to the gym, next time you go to the gym, look at the cars in the parking lot. Here's what's interesting. They're all nice freaking cars. They're all like, there is a tie between gym people and wealth. There is and I think it traces back to energy. It goes back to my energy mastery class. I don't mean to make all roads lead to that, but I'm super passionate right now about that. But you're exactly right. It makes sense that one of the home bases for everybody, for business, should be the gym. Now, does that mean you're getting spotted and then you get into conversation with the spotter and you hope it turns into referral? No, right? There's a way to do it, right? They invite the people from your gym to your events, and have healthy events. So that makes sense. So it kind of become a little bit of an office away from the office, or another sphere for you. It's another piece of sticky church. It's another small group for you, right?
It is. And, I'm doing real estate work in there. And so a lot of people now know that I'm a realtor without me having to spell it out. They walk by and it's, oh, what are you working on? Oh, I heard you on that phone call. Are you a real estate agent? That kind of thing. Yep. So that takes me up until about 8 a.m. From there, it's first and 10, and then an hour of power after that. I normally come home for the hour of power. Just making a lot of those calls from the gym can get a little bit taxing. And by then, normally my 2 and 5-year-old are at preschool, and the house is a little bit of a safer haven for making phone calls at that point.
Yeah.
And I've found just most days, if everything's going to schedule, by 11 o'clock, I've talked to 20, 25 people.
Yep.
I've checked in on current business. I'm feeding the pipeline for what comes later. And then one of the great tips my broker gave me early on was use your mornings for tasks, use your afternoons for people.
There you go.
And so I try and be done by 12 or 1 o'clock with my office work for the day, my contract work, any of that kind of stuff. And that way I've got the afternoon free for listing appointments, showings, networking stacks, whatever it looks like. But I like to keep the afternoons open for people. And honestly, when I first meet with clients, that's one of the things I let them know is, hey, I'm up early, so I'm accessible early. But whenever you want to go see houses, my showing windows start at 1 o'clock and they go throughout the evening. And it was another great tip early on. Hey, doctors get to say when they hold appointments open.
Yes, sir.
Your PT gets to tell you when they're available.
That's right.
Be a professional. Have a calendar that people need to fit into, not just, oh, I'll go see any house, anytime, whenever, because A, you're going to stress yourself out.
Yeah.
B, you don't look very professional. If I can get you whenever I want you, you must not be that busy.
That's right. At 100%. I think that lack of availability can lead to desirability. Right. The less available. I mean, women have done that our entire lives, right? Played hard to get. And then we just want them more. We want to go out more. We call them more and we're in. And, there's something to that. And I know there's also men that played hard to get. It was definitely not me. I was easy. It's just like, call me, I'll go do anything. Let's go have fun,
I didn't have the luxury of being hard to get.
Yeah, me neither. Right. It's like, yeah. I was only going to get it through hard pursuit, just relentless, perseverance, right?
Yeah.
So good. And then so you do your showings, you do your listing appointments, you do kind of the real estate game in the afternoon when it comes to meeting with people and that kind of thing, right? So I like it. Anything that you're scheduling that maybe it doesn't appear in your daily schedule? Is there anything that you do on a weekly basis or bi-weekly basis or monthly basis? I guess the weekly basis would be the church, right?
Even that's on the calendar. I mean, my calendar is pretty much, I use iCal, so it's all color blocks. There's not a whole lot of white left on the calendar because for a couple of reasons. One, if I don't program family time out first, I miss stuff. I schedule a showing for when there's something going on with my kids. I schedule a listing appointment for when my wife needed me at home for some reason. And so scheduling out the family time first and making sure that's blocked out, it really matters to me. It's really important. And then second, I've kind of got it where if I'm losing track throughout the day, I can just look at my calendar and I know what I'm supposed to be doing. It's kind of that, it's 11 a.m. Do you know where your children are? Well, if you're my parent, I'm an hour of power.
That's right. That's right. Well, I think you hit on something that was really important there that, I discovered was, so Tracy is my executive assistant and she actually handles my schedule. So I don't schedule anything. I give it to her. And then if anything ever gets double booked, I could blame her, but I will tell you, it's never happened. So it's that's not true. It has happened, but because we have a meeting, Monday, we can catch those things when they happen. And then I have Sherry, my spouse, who also has access to my calendar. She puts all the family items on. So, and there's genius in that, I will tell you, because if I do miss something family-wise, then guess what? It wasn't just me, right? It can be a family conversation instead of daddy missed blah, blah, blah. And so, but I will tell you that when you have two people that are scheduling you for stuff, your schedule will be 1,000,000 times busier than if you were scheduling you for stuff. And guess what? I'm more productive because Tracy's counting on me to get the work stuff done. Sherry's counting on me to get the family stuff done. And it makes for a busy, however, coordinated schedule. It's coordinated. It's orchestrated. It's in sync instead of what life can be. That's why people say they're out of balance, is because, they do end up double booking. They do feel like they don't have control over their schedule. And then, you do have control. Everybody has 100% control if you'll just take control and use the apps that are out there and available. We use Google and we use iCal, So,
yeah, we live in an age where it's almost, you don't have a lot of excuses because
really
there's an app for that.
There really is. And the other thing too is electronic reminders. If you said that you're going to call somebody Friday at noon, well, if you don't, like that, I think that's even worse now than it was 10 years ago, because you've got a phone that can pop up. You can set a reminder, or you can actually put it in your schedule with a 5-minute reminder and a 10-minute reminder. It will pop up and literally tell you that, you should call Susan at noon on Friday. So I think using the tools that we have is part of it. We know what to do. It's like AI, right? Everybody's talking about AI right now. I think it's the biggest distraction in real estate. I think don't know AI, maybe know somebody who knows AI. Like, don't be the one who is the expert on AI. Be the expert in people. Be the expert in your people. That's it. Just focus on being the expert on your people and you'll be fine. You'll be fine in life. And then, but it's like everybody's on this AI kick, and it's a distraction. It's a tool. It's a tool. And, now what is it? It went from AI. Now it's threads, with Instagram and Facebook and, Mark Zuckerberg coming out with the Twitter killer, so to speak. And it's like, yeah, you don't need to be on threads. Maybe you need to get an account like right now to get your name. Isn't it funny what we'll do to get our name? I mean, I'm still jealous of you. You got lanierward.com. I do not have michaelmaher.com. If you guys know who has michaelmaher.com, please send them my way. But so I did get on threads just so I could get Michael J. Maher, but I'm not doing anything with it, and I doubt I will. But it's interesting that we can be distracted by so many things and we have these tools that could distract us, or they could make us more attractive, So this is good stuff. All right. So what's next for you? Like what do you got in the hopper, man? What's exciting for, August, September, and so on and so forth?
So next week, we've got a Meet Your Neighbor night in our neighborhood. We've got about a 500-house neighborhood with a lot of young families. And so we're doing a Meet Your Neighbor night next week, and I'm jumping in to sponsor the kids components of it. So the snow cone truck and a bounce house and that kind of thing. So really looking forward to that. I've worked in my neighborhood a decent amount already and look forward to continuing that. And then in August, as I mentioned, a lot of kids in the neighborhood. And so we're doing a back to school event in the neighborhood. My whole world right now is young families. That's who we are. That's who our friends are. That's who most people in our neighborhood are. And so I'm finding that school calendar related events are really what it's all about right now.
Yeah. That's brilliant. And then affiliating with the school, right? And figuring out what a school needs? It needs more people that are willing to step up and help plan events, and if you're planning the event, it gives you a lot of control over the event. You can do a lot with it. And
we made the choice that my 5-year-old's going to a smallish private school near us, and there's a ton of opportunity there. And that's not why we chose it at all. Yeah. But on the first day, the director of the school asked, "Hey, could I get your card? We always need, we got teachers moving, we got all this stuff going on." Mm-hmm. And then kind of said, "Hey, we've got a couple events coming up this year. We might need some help." And I'm sitting there thinking, this is perfect. It blends being really involved with my son, which is a non-negotiable for me. I'm going to do it one way or the other. Yeah. Except now it doesn't have to take away from work. It's part of work.
That's right. Can just fold it in. Can be a part of what you do and who you are. Right.
Yeah.
This is what you do. So I love that. Any like final words of wisdom for someone? Speak to that guy that was you 6 months ago. They're doubtful about the business. They have concern. They're actually asking themselves. And just so you know, there are these agents right now. We lost 60,000 agents so far this year. So 60,000 people have felt that exact same way, where they've been hesitant, doubtful, and they honestly are thinking, am I cut out for this business, or am I stupid to be a realtor? Like, what is your advice? What is your thought for them?
I think for anybody that has a tribe, for anybody that has a circle of family, friends, loved ones, connections, people that you enjoy being with, I think there's a place for you in the business. You just have to lean into being you and not trying to be something else. Because here's the thing, in my neighborhood alone, there's 11 real estate agents. And I know that a bunch of my neighbors like 10 of them more than they like me. I know that there's a handful of neighbors that like me more than they like them. There's a whole lot of people out there buying and selling houses, investing in homes, all that kind of stuff. Your job isn't to connect with every single one of them and have every single one of them think you're the best. Right. If you have 15 or 20 of them think you're the best every year, you're going to have a great year every year. And so I think the idea of having to be all things to all people, having to spend money on geofarming and lead gen and cold calling and all this stuff, I think that's kind of what gets thrown at you when you're starting is, well, do everything. Just cast a wide net, do everything. I tried that and it almost made me broke and miserable. Now that I'm kind of seeing, you know what, don't do everything. Do what you're good at. Do what you like doing. Mm-hmm. And you're probably going to attract the right people to you when you do that.
Mm. That is powerful. All right. I'm going to add another question. I don't always do that, but all right. And this is what you just described as you, right? So let's say somebody had, cause this is I'm putting my mentality of I'm that person, and they go, well, I'm not sure if I've got a tribe, or I'm newer to an area, or I just moved, or I'm an unknown. What's your advice for them?
There's other people that are new. There's other people that feel unknown. Whatever you're feeling, there's other people feeling the same way. Whatever your circumstance, there's other people in those same circumstances. Maybe your thing is you set up, hey, let's have coffee every week for people who are new to the area. I'm nervous about being new. I don't meet people real well. Let me step in and start creating a group where people who also are uncomfortable can step in. The thing that I found both in,
by the way,
in
that's
church
brilliant. I just have to throw that. That's brilliant because most of the people that are new to an area are going to rent first, and then they become buyers. So anyway, so I absolutely love that whole strategy, that whole idea. So keep going.
Well, from the church world and from real estate, I've just learned that people come in, every kind of variety and have every kind of interest out there. One of the top selling agents I know, his business is called Gamers Need Homes Too. He's all about the video game industry and Comic-Cons, and that's his whole world. And he makes a lot of money with that being his world. So whatever your thing is, even if you think it's weird, even if you think nobody else does this, I guarantee you a lot of other people do it. And I also guarantee you they probably like living indoors.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that is awesome. That is so good. I have 2 pages of notes. Literally from your daily schedule to Sticky Church to what to do, office warming right from the bat, and just so everybody knows, you could be in an office for 20 years and do an office warming party. You could do it. One little renovation. If the street was closed for a while in front of you, the new parking lot, you put a new plant in your office, right? Whatever it is, you have an excuse to have an office warming party. Love that. Meet your neighbor party. Brilliant. Partnering with churches and schools to do events, and even if they're small, or being sponsors to their events is genius. Love that. This gentleman doubled his business this year in a year where everybody else seems to be struggling and down. And I will tell you, that's Gen right now. That's why I love doing this podcast, is because I never want to come across as tone deaf, and I never want to come across as insensitive. But we have something here. We have a system that's working. It's fun prospecting, fun lead generation. And if just everybody, and by the way, everybody could implement it. That's what you hit with the neighborhood. There's 11 agents, but you don't care. You're going to get 15 listings. They're going to get 15 listings. Whatever it may be. And everybody, here's what's beautiful about a sphere-based business and a referral-based business, is very seldom does our sphere overlap another agent's sphere. It just doesn't happen as much as people think. They think it does. We all think, and by the way, in Kansas City, you can't throw a rock without hitting a realtor, or at least that's what I told the judge. And it's one, we all think that there's so many realtors, but there's not that many realtors who are building relationships and tribes. Knowing and utilizing, knowing and trusting are 2 different scenarios. And you've become the trustworthy one, Lanier. You've become the trusting. And I think one of the biggest things, we've talked about this a lot, is just the whole thought of I can count on you. Your sphere can count on you. Your BNI group can count on you. Your church can count on you. Your school can count on you. And there's no finer compliment than when somebody says, I can count on you. Your kids, right? Would you rather your kids say, I like you? Or would you rather your kids say, I can count on you? And the fact is we'd rather them count on us than like us. They will like us eventually. They'll definitely like the results they get of being a better person, though sometimes that means we have to discipline them and tell them they can't do something that they want to do. And I just love where you're going, Lanier. I love where your heart's at. And I love that your cart is matching your heart. I think that's the nice thing is that, there are these businesses that are all heart, no cart. And the joy of real estate, the joy of lending, the joy of sales is that we can be all heart, healthy cart. We can have a healthy heart and a healthy cart. We don't have to callous our hearts to make them black to perform. And you're doing it, man. And I got to give a shout out to Angela Gribbins. You got one of the best coaches in the world. She happens to work with us. She's brilliant and successful. And, Lake Lanier is a better place Lake Lanier. Lake Norman is a better place because of Angela Gribbins. And I just really want to just express my appreciation, Lanier, for you coming on today and sharing your wisdom and the fact that, you know what, you can do it. Anyone can do it if they're willing to do the work. And that's what you said today. I appreciate it. Thank you, Lanier.
Thank you for having me. And like I said, I'm an unfamous, unknown person. So really, anybody can do this. It's not
anymore,
about
brother.
Being special.
You are LanierWard.com. And by the way, if you're listening to this, first of all, join GenGen.com and put in there, I listened to Lanier Ward's podcast and he's famous with me. You guys need to help me in joingengen.com to let Lanier know that you know who he is, right? And you guys need to connect. So I definitely appreciate that and great stuff today. Ladies and gentlemen, this is episode number 299. If you would have told me several years ago that we were going to do 300 episodes of a podcast, I would have doubted your sanity. I would have doubted your sincerity. And here's the beautiful. They're getting better. Every podcast we do, it just seems like it's getting better. And I love that because I love what that does for you, the listener and the viewer, is it gives you the opportunity to get a feel from all types of wakes of life and backgrounds. And you get to kind of handpick the ones that make the most sense for you so that you can be you. Like Lanier said, you can be you and you can do the interests that align with you with the people that you love and the people who love those interests. And I'm very, very excited about the future of the Referrals podcast. I'm very excited about the future of the Referral Mastery System and GenGen. And today's another sample of honestly why we do what we do at ReferCo. And I'm appreciative of this opportunity. And ladies and gentlemen, make sure you tune in next time. We are going to dive deep on episode number 300. We've got something special planned. Join us next week for episode 300. Otherwise, check out energymasteryclass.com. And if you're new to us, join gengen.com, joingengen.com. We'll see you next time. See you, everybody. Have a great one.